let everyone jump on so they don't get to miss tonight. Super excited about interviewing Dutchie tonight. Ripping bloke, and I can't wait to get into it. So, yeah. Big thanks to our sponsors already. We'll do that quickly. To Shelley Wood from Splice Communications and Atlas Brokers, two of our sponsors. All right, let's not wait any further. Good evening and welcome to Tuesday night, 100 Words, Mate to Mate at 8. My name is Craig Turton. I'm the proud co-founder of 100 Words, Mate to Mate, and the president of the foundation. Is an absolute pleasure to be here, as I am each and every Tuesday night. Now, we started a poll. First of all, we're a men's health organisation raising awareness about the plight of men's health in this country. More than 8 men every day take their own life in this country, and the more we can get men to communicate with each other and their wives and their partners, the better. And that's what 100 Words Mate to Mate is all about. Now, we started a campaign about 15, 16 weeks ago called Mate to Mate at 8. So as part of your day, your routine, which we've all lost routine and structure, we want you to make part of your day is to ring a mate. And no longer can you ring a mate and say, "G'day mate, how you going?" He says, "Yeah, good." You go, "Oh, that's good." What we want you to do is this. The rules of engagement of Mate to Mate are this. When you ring your mate, we want you to ask this. "G'day mate, how's your day been out of 10? Or, "G'day mate, how's your week been out of 10? We're going to put a poll up. There it is. We're going to put a poll up. So we're asking you how your day's been out of 10. Okay, and we'll go through those results soon. Now, as I say each and every week, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a doctor. I'm in fact a painter by trade. Okay, so the reason we do this is to show how simple it is for you to ring a mate and ask him how his day is out of 10. Okay, he will give you a number, and then you've got a much better indication on how your mate's day's been or how his week's been. Okay, so also, if any of the information tonight that we go through is a little bit heavy for you, there is always a number to ring. That is Lifeline on 131114. There's always someone there to take your call. Now, a few of the poll results. We got people at 9, 8, 7, and we got a few people at a 5. Those people at a 5, hang in there. I know it's tough at the moment. Hopefully after tonight's conversation with Nick, you'll have a few tips on how to cope with the stuff that we're all going through at the moment, okay? So now, tonight's guest, ripping bloke, really, really excited about having him on. He debuted for the Hawthorn Football Club in 1994. He won the Rising Star the year after in 95. He won the club leading goal kicking twice. He won the best and fairest once. So between us, we've won 4. I've won 3, just not for Hawthorn. He represented South Australia in the footy. He played 179 games. He kicked 239 goals. He's a lawyer by trade, which makes him 3 times smarter than I am. He represented Essendon in the ASADA fiasco. He also was a part of the Australian athletics team that put the Nitro sports together with Usain Bolt, no less. He's the current CEO of the Whitten Foundation. He's a ripping bloke and one hell of a golfer. Good evening and big welcome. Whew, I'm tired after that. To Nick Dutchie Holland. Hello, Dutch. Thanks for your time tonight.
Hello, Turts, and hello all. And yeah, it's great to be here tonight. I apologise for the painting in the background, just in the spare rooms. Kids are off to bed, and as we were talking earlier, Turts, you know, that's something that you don't want to come home to drunk, because yeah, it's a bit psychedelic when it's drunk. But we'll march through and persist with it. So good to be here.
Anyone who's had a wine tonight, just stop drinking, because that might get a bit funny later on tonight. Now, mate, thank you so much for your time tonight. As I said, Nick, how's your day been out of 10, mate?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm had a good day. Bit flat because I just watched the Hawks go down to the Crows. The only side this year that's lost to the Crows. So bit flat, but generally I'm a pretty positive bloke, and so I'm 7 to 8 out of 10 for today.
Well, mate, hopefully by the end of this you'll be a 9. I've pumped you up a bit, so you should be getting close to at least 8.5 after that intro. So, now, mate, I had a ripping day. I had a 9 today. Today as a painter, it doesn't get any better than this. Radio on, sun coming down, painting weatherboards. I know that doesn't sound like much fun to you, but trust me, that's as good as it gets for a little man like me. So I had a cracking day, which is good because I had a pretty ordinary day yesterday. I was probably about a 5 yesterday, so it was good to bounce back today. Now, mate, tonight we are here to talk about you, not me. Okay, we'll do that another night. We'll talk about me. That should be a real winner, that one. Now, mate, before we go any further, when I told my mum rings me every week and says, "Oh, who you got on tonight?" And I said, "Nick Holland." So she clearly Googled you, and she said that you're a big spunk and she's going to be watching tonight. So can you please wave down the screen and say, "Hello, Mrs. Turt."
Hello, Mrs. Turton. Yeah, good.
Mate,
Thanks for joining
go.
in. And yeah, hopefully that must have been a good picture of me because I'm in real life, as you can see, not that special.
I said to him, "Mum, he's a good man, and we're really happy to have him on." Say, mate, you've made her day. Trust me, I'll get a text message later on to say thanks for that. You're a good man. Now, mate, tell us about you. You're a dad of 3 kids. Now, how old are the kids again?
So you've just given me one more, Turts. I've just got 2, a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. They're the ones that I know of. So it's just the 2 kids there, Adelaide and Leo. So they're at that crazy age, and I can understand people that we're talking to tonight, how it's been, pretty tough. I'm working from home with 2 kids homeschooling, and now 4-year-old is kicking footballs up and down the hallway and joining in Zoom meetings and things like that. And I've got my wife's doing a fantastic job, but she's just about gone crazy. And there's always a fair bit on, and as well as sort of being a parent and working full time. But pretty lucky that we're still able to sort of be working in the environment, because it has been a tough time with job losses and shutdowns and things like that. So this is a great forum for staying connected and working ways that we can sort of get through these tough times and this sort of unprecedented period.
Absolutely. Mate, I apologise for giving you and your wife's probably watching going, "Sorry, Nick, do we need to have a chat?" So sorry if I've got you into trouble there, mate. We've only got the 2. The research department will get a phone call after this. Don't worry about that. Now, mate, AFL footballer, as we all know. Tell us a bit about the career.
Yeah, so I was Adelaide born and bred boy, and drafted to Hawthorn at pick number 14, and came over sort of straight away as an 18-year-old, and I sort of came at the end of an era where Langford, Dermot Brereton, Gary Ayres, John Platt and Jason Dunstall were sort of coming towards the end of their careers. So I got to spend a little bit of time with them, and then, unfortunately we lost them. We lost Darren Jarman and things like that, but was lucky enough to have a 12-year career, and it was just a great experience. Talking about it, you are going into work, doing something you love, like you said, sort of a sunny day like today, you'd be out there and you'd be training, doing something you love. You're playing football and you've got 50 of your mates around you. So couldn't have asked for a better start in life. And during that process, I was one of the first players to go through as a professional football player, because when I started years 1 and 2, Chris Langford was still going off to his executive job at Lend-Lease at the time, and he would come back to training. But then it became full-on, full-time professional under Ken Judge, and players weren't sort of able to work, and I was sort of studying, so I was a full-time footballer. And it's interesting. We've chatted before, Turts, about that era of full-time professionalism players, and how it's so hard to transition out the other end. And one of the players of my era is Ben Cousins, and everyone knows how he struggled. Obviously with drugs post football career. And I was actually just having a look at a photo the other day, and it's me actually singing the team song after a victory. And the 2 players next to me are Daniel Chick and Johnny Hay. And Chicky's had mental health issues, and Johnny Hay only came out recently this month and spoke about it. about his mental health issues. So it's so important that you do things like this and you stay connected. And 100 Words are doing a great job. So well done to you, Terts.
Thanks, mate. And look, Nathan Thompson was also one. He was probably the first big name, wasn't he, to come out and say that he was having some mental health issues. And like now, it's, you know, it happens all the time. It's not a weekly occurrence, but when it comes out now, there's no hoo-ha about it. It's just like, okay, when he's ready to come back, he'll come back. And we've come such a long way from when Tomo came out. And I think we all knew that Johnny Hay was struggling. And then, you know, to find out later about Chicky and those boys, it's come a long way.
Yeah, it certainly has. I remember because Tomo was at full forward and I was at centre half forward, so I was playing alongside him. And back then there wasn't as many resources at AFL clubs to look after players with the mental health issues. And if I can just sort of put you in the view of Tomo, so you're there as a forward, and your job, which is going out there and kicking goals, it's going to be scrutinised by 60 to 80,000 people on the weekend just at the ground. There's a further 700, 800,000 people watching the game. And then if you've had a bad performance, you're talked about in the paper the next day. You're talked about it around the water coolers, and your wife, hears about it. Your mum hears about it, and so on and so forth. And then you come down to the club, and the coach gets stuck into you. So there was no releases, in particularly back then.
Yeah.
And I remember the weeks sort of following Tomo sort of coming out and saying, "Oh, look, I've got problems," and the club sort of was trying to help him out, and he sort of came back and played. And the abuse that he copped as one of the first players coming out. So thankfully now we know a lot more about it, and not only does the club have resources, but the AFL talks about it, and there's understanding there, because it's not AFL players are very lucky because they have all the resources, but going out to the workforce today, you and people sort of listening in here, or just the regular man on the street, he goes off to work and he's had to get the screaming kids breakfast in the morning. He's had to get them off to school and then go off to work. He's got mortgage repayments to hit with his house, and all sorts of things to go on. And there's not the support that AFL players get. So it's important that you look into what you can do, and we know staying connected is one of the biggest things that sort of helps you in that mental space. And we'll talk about the EJ Whitten Foundation a bit later on, is where I'm at the moment. But that was sort of one of the areas that I looked into to diversify the EJ Whitten's Foundation's work.
Absolutely. And it's great. I mean, if I have a shit day at work, no, I don't come home and look on social media and everyone go, gee, what were you painting there? Or you've done a terrible job. And, no one knows, apart from I've only got to keep the client happy. I don't have to deal with what I do with those pressures. So it's really hard for footballers in regards to copying that abuse week in, week out. And Nathan should be really proud of himself to be the first guy to come out. He was sort of a real trailblazer, and he must look back on now and go, I'm so glad that I did, because he's really paved the way for so many young blokes who are copying it today. And it is. It's not easy. It's not easy being a man in 2020. Doesn't matter what you do. I don't care what you do. Life's pretty tough at the moment for everyone. So for Tomo to come out like that was a real win, mate. A real win. Now we'll just, because you touched on that, I know we talked about the other day about at the club when you were playing, how easy or how hard it was in regards to if you were struggling, what you would do. Like the club, we talk about in your early days, there was only one psychologist to go to, and that was sort of that wasn't a comfortable thing to do. It wasn't looked highly upon, was it?
Yeah, there wasn't sort of even really a psychologist as there is there now. There's a full-time sort of player welfare manager who looks after that. The club would just tick the box. They'd get a psychologist in, and we'd do a session with him, and he would take you through and talk about a few things. And it was seen as but you were given his card if you wanted to sort of go off and see him, and it was more or less seen as a weakness if you had to go off and see the psychologist. And that day was a bit of a joke for the players. And it was probably Tomo coming out and the employment of Matthew Lloyd's brother, the Essendon player. He's Simon Lloyd, who's now at one of the coaching staff at Geelong. He came along. He's a sports psychologist, and he, well, for me, I was able to see that, going to see a psychologist about your mental health was almost like going and doing weights training for your mind. So it actually made you stronger, rather than it being seen as a weakness. It was something to make you stronger. And I started using that in the second half of my career to be mentally stronger than my opponents, and to deal with all the pressures that we were talking about before. So many people sort of examining, analysing, looking at your performance, and just one of the things that he taught me was, if you are, feeling, a zero, work on getting yourself constructively to a 1 or 2. You don't have to go from 0 to 10. Just slowly control what you can control, so you can come back to 0 to 2, and then suddenly go 2 to 4, so on and so forth, just by controlling what you can control. Because the uncontrollables, they're going to happen, but you can't impact them whatsoever. So just focus on what you can do. So you can say, look, I'm doing everything I can, and invariably that works out, and you sort of get back. You get back to a 5 out of 10. You get to a 6 out of 10, and then suddenly things turn, and you're feeling better, and you're up there amongst the 8s, 9s, and 10s out of 10. So that was one of the big things I learned from him.
I think that's a really important message, mate, to say it's not about, as you said, going from 0 to 10, because that's like a crash diet, isn't it? Or a fitness campaign you go on for 2 weeks. It's not sustainable. Okay, so the key message there is just go from 0 to a 2, incremental changes that are permanent, that just become part of your everyday life. I think that's a really important message. Now, you said you started seeing Simon in the second half of your career. What would have happened if you had to try to go and see Simon in the start of your career as a young bloke with a lot of the older school guys there? I don't imagine that would have been too comfortable for you.
Yeah, I mean, the players that sort of went in to see the psychologist earlier on the days, it was sort of you'd see them walking down the corridor, and then they'd suddenly do the slip into the room, just so that they couldn't be seen. And it was often sort of to manage the players, out of a club or things like that. So unfortunately, there wasn't enough emphasis put on it. But I've got to sort of say, to Hawthorn's credit, they did get, after sort of getting just the consultants in, they did get a really good sports psychologist in. He stayed with us for a couple of years. Unfortunately, he got poached by another club, and then sort of eventually we got Simon Lloyd, who obviously was very good at his job, and has sort of gone on to Collingwood and now at Fremantle, and now Geelong. So he's still in the system and doing well.
We talked about how important it was to have the buy-in from at a club level, the president, the CEO, the coach, and the captain. If they're all aligned about men's mental health in regards to the playing group, it's a lot easier then for players to go and seek help. If one of those, or a couple of those, aren't in a line, for example, your coach or your captain, if that's not a real priority for them, it's really hard for a young bloke to put their hand up and go, hey, shit, I'm really struggling here. Whereas if the captain's really all for it and got behind the club and the coach, it's very easy for the captain to go, mate, absolutely, mate, I'll come with you.
Yeah.
And that's almost what we're trying to do now is just put your hand behind someone, mate, it's fine. We're all struggling. What can we do to help?
Yeah, and talking tonight, everyone's sort of had bad leaders who, have made comments like, you want loyalty, get yourself a dog, or things like that. Fortunately, now people know a lot about you've got to build a good culture. And where does that start? At a football club, that's the president. So he's the top man there. But Hawthorn, in building the sort of recent premiership era, they said, okay, we need a president, we need a good CEO, we need a coach, and we need a good captain. And that's sort of what came about with those four were in place, and they were able to sort of build the culture and build a supportive nature. And you translate that across to business. And Terts, I know I've spoken to you about a mate of mine that started that culture sort of that we see now, where it really looks after and supports the employees. Well before it was in vogue, and it's great to see that his business went from strength to strength, and he did so well, and it was all because he was able to build that culture. He would support the workers, make sure that they were in the right headspace, because that was the way they could get the best performance out of them. I'll just tell a quick story. I became sort of good friends with his dad, who's a professor of medicine, and this was while I was at the Whitten Foundation, and we were sort of saying that we have this program which is called It's Time to Test, which encourages men to go to the GP annually and get a health check. And I said, look, what's the most important thing for men in health? What can we do sort of before having to present to a doctor? And he said, well, they've done a study and they looked at all the different populations, and the Italian population kept presenting as healthy and not presenting with illnesses and living long lives. And they looked at the diet, and they're eating lots of pasta, they're eating lots of sweets, they're drinking plenty of wine. And we started laughing because when we have our chats, we share, we love Tasmanian whiskey, and we're sitting back and we're drinking Tasmanian whiskey and laughing, sort of saying, we're talking about men's health here, and we're downing a bottle of whiskey. And he said, no, that's good. He said, because what they found with the Italians was they're a very emotive race. They've got what they call their confidant. They've got friends, and they connect with them. And they found out in the studies that they did that more important than diet, more important than exercise, was being able to unburden oneself and have a group of mates that you could talk to, relate to, share a whiskey with, or share a red wine with. But that was so important for your health. And it was a bit of a epiphany moment, and sort of from that moment, I've created a group of there's 10 of us that catch up, and we've been catching up by house party or Zoom during this period, and we always check in a bit like what we're doing here tonight. But it is so important. And I was never a Jimmy Barnes fan, and just at that time a Sarah Blasco version of Jimmy Barnes's Flame Trees came on to it. So I don't know if I'd never listened to the words, but this is immediately after we've had this conversation, and that Flame Tree song's obviously about, Barnes, he's talking about a love lost, and how is he going to cope? And he comes up with three things. This is how I'm going to cope. He's got three rules, and the number one rule, and this is like Jimmy Barnes, the professor, I thought after this, but number one is to find some friends to say you're doing well. And it sort of was a bit surreal, because that sort of actually came on just as we were talking about it. Now we can get into number two, which is the happy hour at one of two hotels, but that one about having friends and connection was just so important.
And laughter, because inevitably when you catch up with your mates and you you know, inevitably, I said to a mate the other night, we were talking some high-grade dribble, just some high-grade dribble. And that sometimes, that just sort of takes you away from the world and what you're dealing with. And that's how blokes particularly connect. But within that, you need, as part of your toolbox, to be able to sense and ask questions of your mate to find out actually how they're going. The days of going, "G'day, mate, how you going?" are just gone. You have to ask. And that's why we think it's so important and so simple to ask them how their day, how their week, if you haven't seen them for a while, how their month's been out of 10. And regardless of what number they tell you, you can always say, well, you know, if you're a 5, you have many 2s lately? Well, yeah, I have. When was the last time you had an 8? You know, and it's easy for guys to just say numbers than it is to say words quite often.
Yep.
So now, mate, what have you seen in, you know, you're in the corporate world now as the CEO of the Ted Whitten Foundation, doing some amazing work there. Now, what have you seen is the real change of late in leaders in regards to people's mental health, those who are in tune with men's mental health and trying to get the best out of their employees? They're the ones that are really being successful.
Yeah, they're fortunately sort of, unfortunately there's bad leaders, but fortunately there's an improving band of leaders, and that's what sort of you know, we've got to promote and encourage. I started off in a law firm, which is a world where as a junior they just sort of work you hard. They don't care about your mental health. And in fact, I had a partner who would say, you know, 9 o'clock on a night where you've been, you know, working for 14 hours already and just doing boring discovery stuff in a windowless room, and he would ask, you know, how's it all going? And you'd sort of pause, and then you'd say and he would say good answer. And that was just you know, terrible.
Real wordsmith.
Yeah, and of, you know, lots of article clerks that go through. Some of the big law firms have 22 article clerks, and by the end of the year, they've got, you know, 3 or 4 left because there's just so much burnout. But I sort of became a bit obsessed with that when I was sort of fortunate enough to be put in leadership roles, and I did a session recently with Ben Crowe, who's Ash Barty's sort of go-to man, Trent Cotchin's go-to man. He was behind Richmond and did some stuff with Hawthorn when they were the premiership, when they had their premiership years as well. And you know, he talks a lot about vulnerability and showing vulnerability and having empathy as a leader. And I struggled with that. I said, how can, as a leader, you show to your employees, your teammates, whoever it is, how can you show that, you know, you don't know the answers, or you you know, you are vulnerable? And he told me the story of Trent Cotchin, that he was a player that went through and pretended that he was perfect and knew everything, and didn't really have the respect of the players, and, you know, couldn't really lead the team. And he got frustrated with the players, you know, not being able to perform at his level. And it wasn't until one year that he got up and he said, you know, look, sometimes when I go out there, I'm shit scared. I'm sort of worried about, you know, the crowd booing me or making a mistake, and, you know, I've got these problems at home that I'm dealing with, and, you know, this is what's happening with, you know, my family. And then the players sort of realised, shit, he's, you know, our captain, our number one player. He's feeling it as well, and so we're all feeling it. And once again, I'm going to come back to control what you can control, and they started doing that. And then obviously in that 2017 year, they won the premiership, and he was voted, you know, the captain of the year. So it was just a bit about showing that you're human. You don't have all the answers, but perhaps together we can work on it and you know, and come up with the answers or the best way to attack this problem.
I think that's a really good point. Leadership now is about empowering your staff and encouraging them to help you come up with the answers to the problems that we're all facing. doesn't matter what industry you're in or what business you do, is we're all in this together. Okay, so what can we do as a collective, be the team of 3, team of 50, what can we do to make this better so that we all survive in this, rather than everyone looking at one person being a man or woman going, you better give us the answer because we're all sinking.
Yeah.
That whole collective environment is a much more positive one.
Yeah, exactly. And so, workplaces are sort of understanding that you've got to obviously address people's mental health, even their physical health, and sort of stimulate them to stay in the workforce, because it's a lot of investment to put into a new worker and train them up and get them going. So you don't want them just leaving straight away. So you've got to invest in your workers, and it's that saying, a rising tide floats all boats. So if everyone's performing, on firing on all cylinders, then you're going to sort of be in a performing, high performance area, and that's where you want to be, and that's what they call the zone, when everyone's sort of coming together, and isn't that when you feel fantastic? So that's what you've got to aim for.
We talked about the other week about how there's really not a lot of difference between the way football clubs and businesses were run back in the day and the way they are now. You look at a football club now versus the old days of Pagan or Barras, where they would just deliver it one message, one way, and that was straight through the front door, right at you. Whereas now there's the head coach, there's all the line coaches, there's a mental health support team, there's a wellness. So the message is the same message, but it's delivered in a whole lot of different ways to suit every guy on the list. Now, that's the same at netball, high-level netball, and all sports these days. And businesses are latching onto the fact that that's really, really important. And more businesses at the top end are investing a hell of a lot more money. We did a great presentation the other week to CAFPA, the Commercial Asset Finance Brokers Association, and they care about their members so much that they wanted us to put a presentation together to just give some tips on how they can handle, what they're all going through. I mean, these guys are used to going to the big flash office, and now they're just sitting in the back room at mum and dad's house. So they've lost that sense of identity and purpose because they don't get to, suit up, go into the city, have lunch somewhere nice. They're cooking toasted sandwiches, mate, on the kitchen bench while taking phone calls, doing emails. It's nowhere near as glamorous. Nowhere near as glamorous.
Yeah, that is the thing, and then you've got the little ones sort of running in on the Zoom meetings,
trying to kick the footy at you.
Yeah, kicking the footy or belting me because the toasted sandwich that I cooked in, didn't have enough cheese in it. So
exactly, it was the ham and cheese versus the cheese and ham.
Exactly, turning it around.
Now, mate, tell us about the great work you're doing at the Ted Whitten Foundation, such an important organisation for men and raising awareness for prostate cancer, which is a massive killer of men in this country. Tell us about the great work and how you got involved there.
Yeah, it's a good day to have me on because today is September 1 and September is International Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, and we've been going for 25 years since the passing of the great E.J. Whitten in 1995, and what it does is it runs events and has a sort of a government-funded program where we go out and do awareness things about not just prostate cancer. Our prostate cancer message is go and get tested, but when you get tested, add in a PSA test. That's your prostate-specific antigen test. That's a blood test. It's no longer the digital examination, so men don't have to be sort of fearful of that. You can ask for the digital examination if you do want it, but it is a simple blood test.
So it is an option.
It is an option. But that's what we encourage. But get your cholesterol done, get your blood pressure done. Speak to your doctor about your mental health if there's sort of anxiety and things like that. They are the people to talk to about that, because there are sort of programs that they can put you on where you're subsidised to go and see someone. And as I said earlier, seeing someone about your mental health is actually a strength, because that puts you in that high performance zone. It gets you functioning, where we know to be in that high performance zone, it's all about your health. And so that's physical, mental and social well-being. So physically is, one thing we do at the EJ Whitten Foundation. We're about to start a program with Anthony Koutafides, one of our ambassadors, is taking a series of corporates that we're putting out online with their physical health. But we're also working on the social well-being, because we're connecting people like we are here tonight. We're getting them connected during this ISO time, and their mental well-being as well. We're sort of concerned about that, because that's when they're fit and firing, they're going to be performing well, and as I said about that Italian story, it's when they illnesses are kept down, because you are sort of staying healthy in all sort of departments of health.
We talked about the other week also about how men's mental health and the way they envisage, getting their prostate checked, and the mental side of things is the real hurdle, isn't it? That's the thing that a lot of guys, and particularly when they're diagnosed, that's the hurdle they struggle with the most.
Yeah, because when it's tied in sort of with erections and things like that, because your prostate runs sort of right alongside sort of the veins and the nerves that give you erection. So many men are nervous about that. So a couple of years, we started up with a partnership with Epworth. We started the EJ Whitten Prostate Cancer Centre, which looks into researches and does treatment trials which are less invasive, so that men can be treated without sort of having to necessarily go in there, if it can be avoided, without having to go in there with any cutting and causing erectile dysfunction and things like that. So we've been going pretty well with that, and it actually started, just a quick story, it started from a conversation from two Hawthorn greats, Don Scott and David Parkin, both prostate cancer survivors. And Don was saying, more needs to be done to sort of help men. It sort of affected me so much that I'm single, and I still like the ladies and things like that. And then Parko came in and he said, Don, one time after having the operation, he went out to lunch with a lady, and things went well, and they went back to his place, and things were going even better. And I got a phone call from Don, and he sort of chatted for a couple of minutes, hadn't spoken to him for a little while, and then he asked me if I had any sort of spare injections, because they have to give themselves an injection to get an erection. He said, Don, played in premierships with you. You're a mate of mine, but you're not that close a mate. Hung up the phone.
Mate, David Parkin and Don Scott, two units that are at different ends of the scale.
Definitely.
Now, mate, I want to touch on a few things here. We talked about the line in the sand game. No, not the line in the sand game, the merger game, where you were leading into there. You were really, really frustrated with what was going on at the club. And you told me that you ran out there, and the first quarter you didn't touch it, and you just wanted to swing punches. And you were so frustrated. And what did Andy Collins tell you at quarter time?
Yeah, to give you a bit of background about that, it was the club, the merger debate was on, and Hawthorn were going to merge with Melbourne. And in the final round, the home and away season, Hawthorn met Melbourne, and we thought it was going to be possibly the last game that each club was going to play in the AFL before becoming the Melbourne Hawks. The club during that week needed some players to sort of go out and support the merger movement. So they asked Shane Crawford and myself, as two of their sort of younger players, to sort of go out there and face the news cameras and the Herald Sun and say, yep, we're pro-merger. And so we did that. It would have been on the Monday or the Tuesday of that week, and going into training. And I remember sort of Chris Langford, just giving me the dirtiest look and not talking to me, and some of the older players not talking to me. And I sort of just got through that week, and I'm thinking, geez, this is terrible. And the lucky there wasn't social media, because the vitriol towards Crawf and I sort of saying that we were pro-merger was just sort of all consuming, and my mind was off the game, and I sort of went out in the first quarter, and I didn't actually touch the ball. And then at quarter time, Andrew Collins, sort of one of the elder statesmen, sort of recognised what was going on, and he said, "Look, you could possibly be the difference between us winning the game and going on to the finals, or us sort of losing the very last game that this club, because we thought merger was going to go ahead, will ever play." He said, "So you go out there, just put everything aside that's happened during the week. I know that the club just sort of wanted you to sort of go up and be the face of the merger date. Just put that aside, go out there and do what you can do, which is play football." And I actually went out there, and I ended up getting 3 Brownlow votes based on 3 quarters of football, just by going out there and sort of focusing on what I could control. And I sort of used that, for the rest of my career, and even in sort of work now, and even sort of in home life as well. Talking with the wife, and talking with friends, family all the time. I said, well, that over there, put that over there. We can hope for the best, but let's just work on what we can work on here. So I pretty much live by that, and sort of work towards sort of getting into that high performance zone by doing everything I can control to the best that I can.
What are the other things we talked last night about? Some of the things that you do for your own mental health. You're like every bloke, every dad who's had kids, and it's sleep deprivation, and it's hard. They cry all the time, blah blah blah. So what do you do now on a daily basis? What does Nick Holland do to look after Nick Holland?
Yeah, there were times. I was telling you how there was times when I struggled immediately after finishing football. I had an operation on my shoulder and an operation on my knee, and pretty much I retired sort of because of that. It was mid-season, so all my friends, my teammates, sort of went back and continued on playing, but I was out of the game and operated on, and could just sit on the couch. So it was a pretty dark and lonely space, and you sort of lose a bit of motivation. So what I sort of try and do now, just little tips to get back into it. And I was sort of fortunate enough then that my good mates Crawf and Dicko sort of came over and started sort of motivating me back into normal life. And then I slowly sort of got back into it, as we were talking about earlier, going from 0 to 2, 2 to 4. So on and so forth. But now, just little tips. I heard you had a talk the other day about making your bed, which I think is sort of a great thing to do. But the other thing is you have to be in the right mental space. So I've just got a little app. Even before making the bed, I sort of put the headphones in as I sort of, after the alarm goes off, I set it just 5 minutes early. And I listened to a meditation on Buddhify, which has a wheel where you can choose, but that just gets you in the right mental frame of mind. And then just because we're sitting down, we're at the computer all day and looking at the computer, I then sort of go out, and a simple thing, which was I'll actually pass on to the group, came from the AFL. Umpires high performance coach. He's given me just this little 1 minute of stretches, literally, and he shows you in the video how to do it in 1 minute, and it just sort of gets your body sort of rolling. So by the time I'm getting the kids breakfast, I'm in a good mental, and I'm in a pretty sort of flexible physical state. So I'm starting the day off well, and so that then when I go into the office or I go into
the next room,
the next room, go to the next room, I can go tick tick, and I've started the day in the right way. And even if it's a shit day and everything goes badly from there, I've at least achieved those little things. But invariably, it works out at the very worst a 6 out of 10, because you've started off and you've got the ball rolling early.
That's a really positive message. So Buddify, was that app you used? Was it Buddify?
Yeah, it's called Buddify, and it was about $7, and it's pretty basic. Probably not for those people that are doing meditation regularly, but it just talks you through. You can have one for while you're going for a walk or in a work break, or you can have one where you're sort of highly stressed or in a tough environment, or if you're about to go into a busy meeting, that just sort of calms your mind a little bit and get you focused for whatever you're doing.
Mate, we've got a couple of questions here from Phil Robinson, a good mate of mine. G'day, boys. Great interview. He was at the Epworth with you as part of an interview raising awareness for prostate cancer, and he just wanted to say, mate, keep up the good work. You're doing a great job, young flipper. Now, also,
just a quick one on that. That's where sort of a lot of our good work is happening there at the Epworth, the EJ Whitten Centre at the Epworth. And if people do have prostate issues, maybe you can circulate sort of my details, and we can sort of certainly point them in the right direction. Absolutely. if they want to sort of get involved in one of our Epworth programs.
Yep, we'll put a link up on our page first thing tomorrow morning, and definitely, mate, that's a really good thing to do for everyone. Now, we've got a Bomber supporter here, a good mate of mine, Brett. I always supported the players during the supplement saga on the basis that they followed club advice. How were the players and their mental health supported during this period with outside pressure and the environment of being unfairly branded cheats from everyone, including the media? Must have been a tough minefield.
Yeah, so I actually had a bit of work. I was one of Essendon's lawyers during that ASADA investigation, and it was extremely tough because it was a rogue element within the club that was causing the issues, and what we were talking about before was you sort of it needs to be a top-down approach. So I think while it was Danks that was the rogue element, it would have been sort of great for the players if there was a bit of better governance from the leadership team, because that just was story after story, and it was hard, and it still is hard. I had a bit to do with Bomber Thompson, and we can see how it's affected him mentally. While it was going on, he would oscillate between someone who was just flat by the whole experience, and then at times talking about footy, you could see that he still had the love for footy, and he would just get excited again and rise up. But his problems have been caused by that. So I think the club sort of probably should have put a bit more time into him, but it looks like at the moment he's in a good space, and he's sort of back doing a few things to get himself back on the right track. But with the players, they've got a long journey, and hopefully they can get the support. But I don't know what Essendon are doing now with some of the past players and things like that.
Yeah, you'd imagine that you hope that there is something in place for them pretty much on a daily basis, you would hope.
Yeah, I think
another question here.
AFL Players Association as well have services there that hopefully they tap into, and they've got people like you, Turts, of saying, not only leaving it up to them, but sort of calling them up. And I know at Hawthorn we've got a buddy system for past players where so we haven't heard from this guy for a while, and we sort of know that there is maybe a few issues. Let's check in with him. Who's checked in with him? Okay, Dutchy, it's your turn to go and say good day. Yeah.
And what does that cost you to ring up, mate?
Yeah, it costs nothing because I'm on a plan and work pays.
Very good. Very good. Mate, we've got another question here from Peter. Coming through the junior ranks as an elite footballer, did you feel that adults surrounding the junior program lacked the understanding of mental illness and the impacts of pressure on young adults? And if so, do you think it's still the case or do you think it's improved? Well, growing up, what was it like, mate? You got your coach, which is inevitably one of the boys' dads, ranting and raving and going off his rocker, delivering the same message that he was delivered 25, 40 years prior to that. It's a lot different now. I know I'm involved in junior footy, and it's a lot different for when I was playing.
Yeah, it's it was. You had the sort of ugly parent syndrome. We know a lot more about it, and Terts, while I think it's improved, I think there's a long way to go. Even more. My kids sort of haven't sort of got into that more competitive area of sport. So with my kids at the moment, it's pretty good. But I've got nieces and nephews who were pretty hotshot tennis players, and my brother-in-law, who I would speak to quite consistently about it. He was one of those tennis parents which just would sort of get his son out there every day and getting stuck into him and things like that. And unfortunately for him, I said you're going to burn him out, and unfortunately that's what happened. He went from being the number 2 tennis player in at under 16 level to when he was 18, he dropped out and didn't want to even touch a tennis racket. So we can always get better, and that's probably our role to sort of pull a few of the ugly parents up on the sideline. Just a gentle sort of nice word, not causing any chaos, because then the kids, it sort of reflects on the kids.
Absolutely, mate, and the kids can sense that too, for sure.
Exactly.
Nick, Dutchy, thank you so much for your time tonight. If it was the Brownlow, mate, it'd be N. Holland, 3 votes. I would get 2, of course, and Walty would get 1. So, mate, thank you so much for your time tonight. Absolute pleasure for me to talk to you, and on behalf of myself, Walty, and all the board and all the members of 100 Words. Absolute privilege, and thank you so much for your time. And we will have to get out on the golf course again once all this is done, and we might even take Ollie.
Yes, Dan Andrews, please open us up in 2 weeks. So we need to get back out on the golf course, but there's bigger problems in the world than our golf. And
absolutely,
thanks for having me. Keep up the good work. You doing a great job, and it's so important. So well done, and thanks for guys for joining us.
Appreciate your time, Dutch. Thanks very much, mate. Everyone, take care.
Cheers.
Hey, that was good. CEO of the Whitten Foundation, Nick Holland, doing a great job there. So it was great to get him on. Now, before we go into next week's guest, which I'm really, really excited about, big thanks to all our sponsors. Shelley Wood from Splice Communications does an amazing amount of work for us at 100 Words. We love you, Shelley, so much. Thank you. To Matt Afkin at Atlas Brokers, do an amazing amount of work for us. So if you need to refinance, which everyone does at the moment, some good rates out there, refinance your home loan or some plant equipment, ring Atlas Brokers. And my mate Brett Phillips, who runs the only tennis show in this country, goes Australia-wide, does an amazing amount of work in the community for tennis people and for us at 100 Words. His name is Brett Phillips. Thank you so much to BP. Now, next week, quite emotional about this. Got a dear friend of mine next week, Greg Hall, on Saturday. Those who know anything about horse racing, Greg Hall rode Sub-Zero to Melbourne Cup victory in 1992. Sub-Zero unfortunately passed away on Saturday. I rang Greg and he was shattered. He was absolutely gutted. What Subby did as a horse past his racing career was far outweighed anything that he did on the track. And Greg's an emotional beast. He's doing it really, really tough himself. He's going to come on next week and tell us all about his connection with Sub-Zero, and some of the stuff that he's dealing with at the moment. He's a fighter, and I'm so privileged to have one of my dear friends who needs some help at the moment, and he's going to come on, and I can't wait to interview him. I'm really, really excited. He agreed to it today, and I cannot wait for next week. So if you are not doing anything, make some time next week, 8 o'clock, next Tuesday, mate to mate at 8. Greg Hall, absolute superstar, talking about him and his relationship with an amazing horse who did some amazing things. I hope you have a great week. The suns are out, so, you know, the weather's getting better. I hope your week's a 10 out of 10. On behalf of myself, Walt's the producer who does an amazing job, and the rest of the team at 100 Words. Have a great week. I hope it's a 10 out of 10. Take care.